Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to W.M.S.T podcast episode number 79 and 80. It's going to be a giant episode. We're going to combine two episodes and we're just going to talk about a lot of topics that we missed from last week after our impromptu 1 week break. So let's get started. Joining me today is the man who always is reliable. He's the Orange Cassidy of the group. It's Cam. What up, Cam?
Hello.
Hello. All right. Recording. So, are you ready to review Dark Knight Rises?
Yes, I am.
All right. Welcome to part 2 of W.M.S.T podcast, where we talk a little bit about the movie industry and some mainstream shenanigans. But first, we got to talk about one of my favorite directors of all time, Christopher Nolan. So we're going to continue his filmography. Unfortunately, Tenet was supposed to come out sometime next weekend, but we're going to have to wait till September. So hopefully we can see it in September. But for the rest of the month and, maybe hopefully not like the rest of the year, we won't have to wait that long for Tenet. But for the rest of the month, we will be reviewing as many Christopher Nolan movies as possible until Tenet releases. So let's talk about the third installation in the Dark Knight trilogy, Dark Knight Rises. This is, it's not one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, although it's one of the more interesting comic book movies, in my opinion. I feel like if this movie wasn't the third movie in a whole trilogy, like an ending of a trilogy, I don't think it would have been as impressive. But because this was, the ending of one of the best trilogies of all time, it definitely held more weight. And overall, I feel like this movie delivered and it left the viewers satisfied. Like, this was a good ending to the trilogy, and Warner Brothers and Nolan did not mess it up whatsoever. As for some of the things I liked about the movie, the opening scene, amazing, phenomenal. IMAX camera doing its thing. Like, I love the fact that Christopher Nolan, loves using that amazing IMAX camera. The visual, the grandness is just great. I mean, Bane is just so badass, and like, you see him as this lethal threat from the very beginning. His presence is just phenomenal. And the IMAX camera just makes him look so good. Like, the whole scene looks amazing. The plane takeover and the plane being crashed and all that, like, it's freaking amazing. I love that opening scene. It's so good seeing that scene in IMAX. Like, that's enough for the price of admission. One thing I kind of, and this is something I was hoping to discuss with Ziggler, but he's not here today, but this is something I've discussed with Ziggler a lot regarding this version of Batman. And I know I said I was going to tell you about things I like, but I got to tell you about the fact that this Batman hasn't been Batman for 8 years. So Bruce, after the ending of Dark Knight, decided to, give up the cape and the cowl and just, not be Batman anymore. So that was an 8-year jump.
He just pulled a Spider-Man 2 in this movie.
Basically, yeah. So there was an 8-year jump between that time and this movie, which is, I mean, if you think about it, that's a lot of time between, not being Batman to becoming Batman. Like, me and Ziggler always wondered, like, so you're telling me during those 8 years, nothing happened that Batman had to come out? No Poison Ivy? no other like big villain like who's like a really good other Batman villain like
Freeze,
no Freeze, no
no Riddler.
no
Like I'm
Rid
mainly going by the
yeah no Riddler
Schumacher villains.
yeah like Schumacher yeah no Riddler. I mean nothing. Are you serious? Joker didn't. I mean
I
the
mean, yeah, well, we know, but he didn't
yeah the Heath
in
Ledger
storyline
situation.
show back up.
Yeah, but are you serious? Like 8 years? Like I don't know. I kind of find that to be a bit weird. Like no comic book version of Batman has ever been not Batman for that long. So I think that's an interesting choice that Nolan made. Although I feel like maybe he didn't make that choice, due to the unfortunate passing of Heath Ledger. I feel like the plans for how this Batman would progress kind of shifted. Because I think it's always weird when I think about that.
Wouldn't this this would have come out in 2012? So just counting it, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That would have been this year that he would have come back. Come back. 8 years.
Yeah, basically. Although he was Batman, you know what's another thing that I don't like is he was Batman for only 1 year. He was Batman from 2006 to 2007 in the movie's timeline, right? That's kind of a short time for him to be a Batman.
So this
And
would have been 2008, Dark Knight Rises.
yeah, correct. So 2007, let's just say
So
2007.
2016 would have been the time frame where he came back.
Exactly, right. That's a long time without a Batman, and like I feel like that's not a long enough time for Batman to be of impact. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, that's kind of a short time for a Batman. Like, I always find that to be weird
And
about
that
this
is weird.
Batman. Yeah, and I feel like that's like you remember we talked about this during the Batman Begins review. We talked about the fact that Christopher Nolan seems to be more interested in Joker and Bane rather than Batman. So maybe that's why.
Like these are the antagonist movies versus the protagonist.
Right. Which is kind of awesome because, Batman has such a great rogues gallery of villains that you can make a whole movie about any of the villains. Like, obviously Joker is the biggest example. Uh,
Like, have they ever done like a Sinister Six type of thing in the comics?
with Batman villains, I mean, I think
Like I say
this.
Sinister Six just because it's the Spider-Man thing, where it's
Right.
like all the villains.
Yeah, like there's been a couple of storylines where Batman villains have teamed up. Like the biggest one is the Long Halloween. Uh,
Which is what they're doing with
yeah,
this new one.
yeah, and because it's like I remember it was like um, Harvey Dent, Catwoman, Penguin, all these uh, uh, all like 12 of his villains they teamed up to you know go up against him, and it was 12 because the 12 months in a year, and the guy who was setting this up was the calendar man, for obvious reasons.
So over 1 month he faces the one guy, and then February he faces another one.
Yeah, and Halloween he faces Scarecrow, like that kind of thing. Like each month is like a different villain, and it it like culminated in like him finding the mystery person who's been murdering people. It was Harvey Dent, by the way. So I think that's like the closest thing I can remember to like a rogues gallery of Batman villains teaming
Like
up.
I love the idea for a movie, but it's a shame that it would have like wasn't it supposed to come out next year?
Which movie?
The Batman, the
Oh,
Long Halloween Batman.
the Robert Pattinson
Yeah, the
Batman was
Pattinson one.
actually it was always supposed to come out June 2021, but it's because of the pandemic, it got moved to October 2021.
It's perfect for October because of the long Halloween theming.
Yeah, the long Halloween theme is definitely gonna be a big theme. I heard even Court of Owls, which is like a different group of villains for Batman. I think it's definitely gonna be interesting to watch out. Anyways, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Blake, aka we later find out Robin. I think he's really good in the role. He's a really good addition, and I kind of wished we got to see more of him. But this was the last movie in the franchise, so this
Like
was it.
this is an interesting one because they built up not only Robin but also Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, right? Not Catwoman, Batgirl or Catwoman? Because my memory's fuzzy about this movie. Like this movie was weird for me because this would have been them building up two different characters. Like they built up Robin, they built up Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, and this would have been the final one. They were trying to build up to a fourth movie to me.
It's funny. Like I remember there was like years ago there were early talks of this movie being split into two movies, and maybe that's why like some of the people were built up so we can see them in another movie, but they decided to just make it one full movie because Nolan didn't want to do another Batman movie. So that's why they were built up but never used to their full potential, I guess. Yeah, I remember one of my favorite things about this movie was like the Gotham takeover by Bane, that football field being like uh, uh, destroyed, and then him talking to that when he set up the bombs around the city and he killed the guy who can like uh, de- uh, you know defuse the bombs, and then literally just taking over the city, like that speech he gave, like so freaking badass. And the funny thing about those like Gotham lockdown scenes, it kind of reminds us of like uh the quarantining and the lockdowns of 2020, where like everybody stays inside, nobody goes outside. Like it's kind of weird how like we're kind of living in that kind of situation in 2020.
I guess you could say this movie was foreshadowing, and we didn't even know it.
Yeah, and then you had like police officers teaming up against criminals. Like that kind of reminds you of like the rioters teaming up against police officers in real life. It's kind of weird, to be honest. But yeah,
I guess
anyways,
this gives it a lot more of a meaning and actual more appreciation, to be honest. Well, minus a virus killing hundreds and thousands and millions of people.
hey, but Bane is more dangerous than a virus, to be honest. Anyways, um, some people kind of find the ending of this movie controversial, but and that I say some people very gingerly, like it's more. A lot of people actually like the ending of this movie and they find it satisfying, and I tend to be in that camp. I think this was probably as good enough of an ending you can possibly think of. Like, I mean, obviously it's hard to satisfy everybody, but I feel like they did a good enough job. So Batman, takes that bomb and sacrifices himself for the city. Sacrifices himself, and then they make a monument in his name, and then it's revealed at the end that maybe he survived, or maybe it was Alfred's illusion, seeing him with Selena Kyle. Although Christian Bale confirmed it himself that that wasn't an illusion, like it actually happened. So I guess Bruce Wayne goes off and lives his life with Selena in a foreign country, and Blake ends up becoming Robin and becomes the new Batman or new Robin or the new Nightwing.
Nightwing.
Nightwing, yeah. And yeah, that's the ending. I feel like it set up some kind of sequel with Robin to be the Batman, or like Nightwing, like you said, but Nolan had no plans for to come back. gave the reins to Zack Snyder to make the next DC movies, and he literally told Zack Snyder, do whatever you want with DC, and literally just dipped to do whatever he wanted. I mean, he's one of the greatest directors of all time, one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Um, as an individual movie, probably not the best, but as an ending to a trilogy, it's great. So I would give this movie an 8 out of 10. So yeah, go ahead, Cam, with your review for Dark Knight Rises.
I remember seeing this in theaters after Dark Knight, and I always thought of this one as my favorite of the franchise, just for the ideas that they have in this. For Batman leaving or pulling a Spider-Man 2 and leaving for several years, Bane taking over, the rioters, and the whole dystopian, do I want to say, universe in Gotham where the inmates are running the asylum and Batman has to come back in order to restore order. Like, I like the idea. I've always liked that kind of idea, kind of like I want to say George Orwell 1984. Was it 1984? Yeah, dystopia where
I
even though I
think,
never really.
yeah, sometime in the mid 80s. I think, yeah, yeah.
Like I'm thinking about like there like other inspirations towards that, and like where the people take over a city or the world even, or the world, like they're the ones that take over. Like is 19, like somebody will probably correct me on that one. Anyway, I've always liked that idea. I've always liked Tom Hardy as Bane. He's not Heath Ledger, where he's giving one of the most iconic performances in cinema, but he's still a great villain. Like I've always loved his performance in this movie. But coming back to this movie, it's weird that this would have been Nolan's last movie. Yet they set up a bunch of other ideas for this. There's no big villains in coming in the 8-year gap. They build up Catwoman and Robin. Batman is written off at the end, which is probably a decision because they wouldn't. Which is probably a decision because one, Nolan didn't want to make any other movies, and two, they would have had Joker in this, but they decided to scrap that after Ledger's passing. And they would have done a Nightwing and Catwoman thing, but they decided to just scrap it all. It would have been interesting to see what they would have done with the movies after the fact. It's kind of like with Batman Returns, where they have all of these ideas where they want to have another Catwoman movie, where they want to have a Catwoman movie, and where they want to continue the Batman series, but they scrap the ideas where Burton takes the reins to Joel Schumacher, and here Nolan takes the reins to Zack Snyder. I guess you could say that all of this is just like the wasted, but like a bunch of potential ideas yet they get wasted. But even if the potential ideas were wasted and scrapped and they keep going and they go in different directions, I do like this movie. I've always liked this movie. My rating for this one is 8 out of 10.
Yep.
Even though I gave Dark Knight, the original Dark Knight, a perfect 10, but still Rises is still a great movie.
Yeah, definitely like a good ending to
and
a phenomenal trilogy.
I forgot about the one scene where Batman fights Bane for the first time.
Oh yeah, when when the Dark Knight Rises, you know that meme from like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where like Leonardo DiCaprio is like pointing at the screen.
Or is that Wolf of Wall Street or something?
No, that was from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That was like ooh, he said the thing.
Yeah, like the Dark Knight finally rises. Look, guys.
He finally rises. Ooh, he said the thing. He said the thing.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that video and make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And click on the channel to check out some more awesome videos like our movie and wrestling debates and our interviews with people like the Wrestling Classic and Jordan Jomo from the IGWC. And we are definitely looking into delivering you all some more content in the near future, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And thank you for your support.